This is the OCR GCSE 91 Maths Foundation Paper 1 from the November 2021 series. Question number 1. For part A, we have to measure the length of this line. If we measure the length of this line, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.2. We have 9.2 centimeters. Part B of the question, the diagram shows an angle, and for the first part of part B, we have to measure the angle. The angle measured is 55 degrees. We have 55 degrees. For the next part of part B, we have to write down the mathematical name of this type of angle. We have an acute angle. Question number 2. For part A, we have to write down an odd number. We can choose any odd number. For example, we could have the number 7. For part B, we have to write down a square number. We can choose any square number. For example, we can choose 16. For part C, we have to write down a prime number between 30 and 40. Well, the only prime numbers between 30 and 40 will be 31 or 37. We can write either of these down. I'm going to write down 37. For part D, we have to write down a multiple of 8. We can choose any multiple of 8. For example, we could choose 24. Question number 3. Here is a rhombus. For part A, on the diagram, we have to draw all the lines of symmetry. Well, if we draw the lines of symmetry, we've got a line over here and also a line over here. Here are the lines of symmetry. For part B, we have to write down the order of rotation symmetry of the rhombus. Well, the order rotation is equal to 2. We can rotate this shape such that it lands back on itself 2 times. Question number 4. Here is a list of numbers 6, 9, 2, 3, 9, 1. For part A, we have to work out the range of the numbers. To work out the range, that's equal to the largest number subtract the smallest number. So, the largest number is 9. The smallest number is 1. 9 subtract 1 is equal to 8. The range is 8. For part B, we have to work out the mean of the numbers. Our first step is to add the numbers 6 plus 9 plus 2 plus 3 plus 9 plus 1. Then we divide by how many numbers there are. There are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 numbers in total. So if we work out what this is equal to, 15, 17, 20, 30 divided by 6 is 5. So the mean is equal to 5. Question number 5. For part A, we have to round 564 to the nearest 10. Here is a number line, and the 564 is less than 565, so we write down to the 560. So to the nearest 10, we have 560. For part B, we have to round 438,749 to 3 significant figures. Here is a number line. The 438,749 is greater than the 438,500, so we would round up to the 439,000. So we have 439,000. Question number 6. We have to write the following numbers in order of size, with the smallest first. Let's write each of these numbers to 3 decimal places. This is already to 3 decimal places. If we add a 0 placeholder, this is now written to 3 decimal places. If we add a 0 placeholder, this is now written to 3 decimal places. It now becomes easy to compare. The smallest is this, followed by this, followed by this, followed by this. So we have 0.502, followed by 0.51, followed by 0.529, followed by 0.54. Question number 7. For part A, we have to solve x subtract 14 equals 30. Well, if we add 14 to both sides, that leaves us with x equals 30 plus 14, which is 44. For part B, we have to solve 6y plus 7 equals 28. Our first step is to subtract 7 from both sides, leaving us with 6y equals 21. If we now divide both sides of this equation by 6, you will find y to equal 3.5. So y is equal to 3.5. Question number 8. Point G is shown on this grid. For part A, we have to write down the coordinates of point G. We go 3 across, 4 down. So the coordinates of G will be 3 minus 4. For part B of the question, we have to plot the point H on the grid at minus 2, 4. We have minus 2, 4 over here. We would label this point H. Question number 9. A student thinks of a number, they square it and then add 6. The answer is 295. What number is a student thinking of? If we let their number equal x, then what's happening is they start off with x, then they square it. After they square it, they add on 6 to this number. The result is 295. So we need to find out what x is, their original number. The first thing we will do is subtract 6 from both sides. And if we do that, x squared equals 281. And now if we square root both sides to find out what x is equal to the square root of 281, which is 17. So the number they are thinking of is 17. Question number 10. For part A, we have to simplify 3c squared d times 2d. Well, 3 times by 2 is 6. C squared is being multiplied by 6, and d times by d is d squared. So we have 6c squared d squared. For part B, we have to factorise 35x plus 7x squared. Well, what is the highest common factor of 35 and 7? That, of course, is 7. What is the highest common factor of x and x squared? That's just x. So 7x is our highest common factor. So when we open up our bracket, 7x times by 5 gives 35x. 7x times by x gives 7x squared. Question number 11. A rectangle 6 cm by 3 cm and a semicircle are joined to make this shape. We have to work out the area of this shape. Well, the area of the rectangle, 6 times by 3, that's 18. So we have 18 centimeters squared. For the semicircle, we've got half of a circle, and the radius will be half of the 6, which is 3. So we have pi times by 3, which is our radius, squared. And then we have to divide this result by 2, because we've got a semicircle. So it turns out we get 9 pi over 2, which as a decimal to one decimal place is equal to 14.1 centimeters squared. So for the area, we have 18 plus 14.1, and if I work out what this is, we get 32.1 centimeters squared. So we have 32.1 centimeters squared. Question number 12. A conversion graph between pounds as dollars is shown below. For part A, we have to explain fully how the graph shows that the number of dollars is directly proportional to the number of pounds. Well, we have a straight line which passes through the origin. For part B, we have to use the conversion graph to change £20 into dollars. If we read up from £20 and then read across to convert into dollars, you can see we've got $26. Part C. Some trainers cost £170 in the UK. The same trainers cost £195 in the USA. We have to show that trainers cost less in the USA. Well, one way which we can approach this is to convert everything to dollars. Now, we can't find £170, but what we can find instead is 17. So if I read up and then read across, we have $22. So we know that £17 is equal to $22. And that's from the graph here. So to find out what £170 is, we can multiply by 10, so we have $220. What does this show? Well, as this amount is greater than the 195, which corresponds to the USA price, we can therefore conclude they are cheaper in the USA. For part D, if the trainers are bought from the USA, there is an extra charge for tax and delivery. Alex wants to pay the lowest total amount for the trainers. We have to write down the maximum extra charge for tax and delivery that Alex should be willing to pay. Give your answer in dollars. Well, to work out what this is, what we need to do is compare our amount with the USA amount. And it should be straightforward that when I compare these two amounts, there is a difference of £25. So the maximum we can pay then will be £24.99. We still want it to be less than our UK price, and this is the maximum amount that it can be from the USA. Question number 13. A biased five-sided spinner is numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4, and 5. The table shows the probability of the spinner landing on 1, 2, and 4. The spinner is 4 times more likely to land on 5 than on 3. We have to complete the table. Well, if this probability is x, this probability will be 4x. It's 4 times likely to land on a 5 than on a 3. And we know that probability adds up to 1. So we've got 0.10 plus 0.10 plus x plus 0.20 plus 4x. The result of all this is equal to 1. So we've got 0.1 plus 0.1, that's 0.2, plus another 0.2, that is 0.4, so we have 5x plus 0.4 equals 1. So 5x is equal to 0.6, and if we divide through by 5, then x is equal to 0.12, which means 4x is equal to 4 times by 0.12, and if I work out what this is, I get 0.48. So we could have 0.12, 0.48. Question number 14. Here are the first 4 terms of a sequence. We have to write down the next term of this sequence. Well, what are we doing from one term to the next? Well, 8 plus 7 is 15. 15 plus 7 is 22. 22 plus 7 is 29. 29 plus 7 is 36. So the next term in the sequence is 36. Explained how we found our answer. Well, what we did was we added 7. The nth term of a different sequence is given by 4n plus 2. We have to explain why 32 is not a term in the sequence. Well, what we can do is we can set the 4n plus 2 equal to 32. And if I subtract 2 from both sides, well then 4n is equal to 30, which means n equals 7.5. And this 7.5 is not an integer, it's not a whole number. And because this is not an integer or not a whole number, then 32 is not a term in the sequence. Question number 15. For each graph below, we have to select its possible equation from the list. Well, this graph over here is a quadratic, so it would have equation y equals x squared, so the letter will be e. For this one, we've got a straight line which passes through the origin, but it's got a negative gradient, so that's y equals minus x, so that's graph C. Here we've got a line which is parallel to the x-axis, but below the x-axis, so that is y equals a negative number, such as y equals minus 2, so that's graph B. And here we've got a straight line with a positive gradient with a positive y-intercept, so that's graph F. Question number 16. Harper's wage is £1,200 each month. They spend 1/4 of their wage on rent. They spend £460 of their wage on other items. What fraction of their wage does Harper have left? Give your answer in its simplest form. So the first thing we can do is find out how much they spend on rent. The amount they spend on rent, well, that's 1/4 of the 1,200. So we've got 1,200 divided by 4, which is £300. So they spend £300 on rent. So what we can do is find out how much money they have left over. The amount of money they would have left over will be the 1,200 subtract the 460, which is the amount they spend on other items, subtract 300, which is the amount they spend on rent. So the amount that they have left over is equal to 440. So now what we can do is find out the fraction which they have left. We have 440 divided by 1,200. And if we work out what this is equal to, we get 11/30. So we have 11/30. Question number 17. These two triangles are mathematically similar. We have to work out the value of x. Well, we can see that this side would correspond to this side, and that this side would correspond to this side. We can begin by finding out the scale factor. The scale factor is equal to 32 divided by 20. So 32 divided by 20 is 1.6. So our scale factor is 1.6, which means to find out what x is, I would have to multiply this 15 by 1.6, which is 24. So we can see then that x is equal to 24. Question number 18. Lee throws two fair four-sided dice, each numbered 1, 2, 3, and 4. He multiplies together the two numbers that the dice land on to produce a score. We have to find the probability that Lee's score is a prime number. So here we can create a grid and we multiply the numbers. 1 times 1 is 1, 1 times 2 is 2, 1 times 3 is 3, and 1 times 4 is 4. 2 times 2 is 4, 2 times 3 is 6, 2 times 4 is 8. 3 times 3 is 9, 3 times 4 is 12, 4 times 4 is 16. Now, how many prime numbers do we have? Well, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of them. So out of 16 scores, we've got 4 prime numbers out of 16. And this probability will simplify to a quarter. Question number 19. Fountain A squirts water every 24 minutes and fountain B squirts water every 42 minutes. They squirt water together at 15:19, but to find the next time they squirt water together. If we take a look at fountain A, we've got 15:19, and if I add 24 minutes, we get 15:43. Another 24 minutes, 16:07. Another 24 minutes, 16:31. Another 24 minutes, 16:55. Another 24 minutes, we get 17:19. Another 24 minutes, we get 17:43. Another 24 minutes, 18:07. Another 24 minutes, 18:31. Another 24 minutes, 18:55. We could continue on. If we take a look at fountain B, that squirts water every 42 minutes. So we've got 15:19. Add 42 minutes, we get 16:01. Add another 42 minutes, we get 16:43. Add another 42 minutes, we get 17:25. Add another 42 minutes, we get 18:07. Now what we need to do is find the next time they squirt water together. Well, clearly that will be 18:07. So we have 18:07. For part B of the question, a school sends 60 students from year 8 and 105 students from year 9 to a museum. The school divides these students into groups using the following rules. The groups must be the same size, and all students in any group must be from the same year. There should be as few groups as possible. We've defined the size of each group and the total number of groups. Well, here is the information we know for year 8. We've got 60 students in year 8 and we've got 105 students in year 9. Now, to find out the size of each group, what we need to do is find the highest common factor of 60 and 105. So, to find the highest common factor of 60 and 105, what we need to do is find the product of the prime factors. So, the product of prime factors of 60, that's 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. So 60 we can rewrite as 2 times 2 times 3 times 5. And 105, as the product of its prime factors, is 3 times 5 times 7. So 105 can be split up into 3 times by 5 times by 7. So when we come to find the highest common factor, well, we've got the 3, which is common to both, and then we've got the 5, which is common to both. So we've got 3 times by 5, and that's equal to 15. So what does this 15 represent? Well, it represents the size of each group. So what we need to do is find out how we can split this year 8 group up and this year 9 group up. Well, if we do 60 divided by this 15, it turns out we get a value of 4. And if I do 105 divided by the 15, it turns out we get 7. So we've got 4 groups of year 8 and 7 groups of year 9, and that's shown with this model. And the size of each group is 15. And again, that is shown in this model. So the total number of groups we would have, well, we've got 4 from year 8 7 from year 9, the total number of groups we've got is 11, with 15 in each group. Question number 20. For part A, over a long period of time, it is found that the probability of a train from Beaufort to London being late is 0.2. One morning, there are 2 trains from Beaufort to London. Use the information to complete the tree diagram. Well, the probability of being late is 0.2, so we can fill the late probability with 0.2, and if I do 1 subtract 0.2, I get 0.8, so the probability of not being late is 0.8. For the next part, we have to work out the probability that both trains are not late. What we want to do in this question is find the probability that both trains are not late. So we want not late followed by another not late. So we've got 0.8, that's the first train not being late, times by 0.8, that's the second train not being late. It turns out we get 0.64. So we have 0.64. For the next part, we have to give a reason why the probabilities used in the tree diagram for the second train may not be reliable. Well, quite simply, unexpected events such as weather or train strikes may occur. For part B, Morgan takes a train from London to Beaufort and then another train to Argonne. The tree diagram shows the probabilities of Morgan's trains being late or not late, that's shown here. Morgan will not catch a train to Argonne if the train to Beaufort is late and the train to Argonne is not late. We have to find the probability that Morgan will catch a train to Argonne. Well, first of all, we can find the probability that she does not catch a train, because we know the probability that she will not catch a train will be the train being late to Beaufort and not late from Argonne. So the probability that we do not catch a train, we've got 0.35 times by 0.76, and working out what this is equal to, we end up with 0.266. So the probability that she catches the train, we've got 1 subtract 0.266, which is equal to 0.734. Question number 21. The price of a plane ticket is increased by 15% to £1,426. We have to find the original price of the plane ticket. Well, if we let the original price equal x, we've got x multiplied by 1.15, because we have an increase in 15%. The final result is £1,426. And what we need to do is find out the original price. And the way we can do that is by dividing £1,426 by 1.15. So if we work out what this is equal to, we get 1,240. So we have £1,240. Question number 22. Kai buys 5 drinks and 3 cakes for £16.35. Asmi buys 2 drinks and 6 cakes for £14.70. Assume that each drink costs the same and that each cake costs the same, we have to calculate the cost of one drink and the cost of one cake, and we'll show you working. Well, what we've got so far is 5 drinks plus 3 cakes equaling 16.35, and then we've got 2 drinks plus 6 cakes equaling £14.70. Now, we've got 2 unknowns with 2 equations, so we need to solve these equations simultaneously. If I call this first equation 1 and this second equation 2, we can get the c's to same by multiplying the first equation by 2. 5d times by 2 is 10d. 3c times by 2 is 6c. 1635 times by 2 is equal to 3270. We'll call this equation 3. What we need to do is find out what d is, and we can do that by subtracting equation 2 from equation 3. 10d subtract 2d is 8d. And then if we work out 3270 subtract 1470, we get 18. 8d is equal to £18. And if I now divide both sides by 8, we get d equals £2.25. So now that I know what d is, I can now find out what c is. We can substitute into equation 2, sir. So with d equaling 225, we've got 2 times by 225 plus 6c equals 1470. So if I do 2 times by 225, I get 450. So we've got 450 plus 6c equals £14.70. If I subtract £4.50 from 1470, we get £10.20. So we have 6c equals £10.20, and if I divide through by 6, we get 1c equals 170. So I get the cost of one drink being £2.25, the cost of one cake being 170. Question number 23. Here is a right angle triangle. We have to work out the value of h. Well, we've got the hypotenuse, the adjacent, and an angle, so what connects those is cosine. So we've got cosine of 60 equals adjacent 8 divided by hypotenuse h. We need to find out what h is. Now cos 60, that's just 1/2. So we've got 1/2 equals 8 divided by h. So h is equal to 8 divided by 0.5. How many halves go into 8? Well, that's 16. H is 16. Question number 24. Charlie invests £9,000 at a rate of 0.7% per year compound interest. You have to calculate the total amount of interest Charlie will have earned after 5 years. Give your answer correct in the nearest penny. So he starts off with £9,000. And if I multiply this by 1.007 to the power of 5, it turns out we get £9,319 and 44 pence. So this is the amount he has after 5 years. And so if I do £9,319 and 44 pence, subtract 9,000, we get £319 and 44 pence. So we have £319, 44 pence. Question number 25. Frankie and Taylor travel the same distance from town A to town B. Frankie travels at an average speed of 52 km per hour. Taylor travels at an average speed of 15 meters per second. The journey takes Frankie 4 hours. We have to calculate how long the journey takes Taylor. Give your answer in hours and minutes. Correct to the nearest minute. You must show you're working. Well, first of all, we've been given the time for Frankie, and we've also been given the speed for Frankie. So if we take a look at Frankie, we've got 52 kilometers per hour multiplied by 4 hours. 52 times by 4 is 208. So we have 208 kilometers. So this also means Taylor travels 208 kilometers. So if we take a look at Taylor, what we've got so far is 208 kilometers. And if I multiply that by 1,000 to convert it into meters, I need to multiply by 1,000, so I have 208,000 meters. So now I can find the time, and I can find the time by doing the distance divided by the speed. So if I do 208,000 meters, and then if I divide this by the speed of 15 meters per second, working this out, it turns out we would get 13,866.67 seconds. And what we need to do is convert this into hours and minutes. So what we can do is take this amount and if I divide this by 3,600, this will convert to hours. So if I find out how many hours this is, we have 3.85 etc. hours. Now I want this in hours and minutes, so I definitely have 3 hours, but this 0.8 etc. hours, I need to times that by 60 to convert that into minutes. So this amount here, I need to times by 60 to convert that into minutes, and it turns out we would have 51 minutes plus 3 hours, which gives 3 hours 51 minutes. So we have 3 hours 51 minutes.